We react, oh my God, such a terrible thing. And not to say that everything is perfect, but when things happen, or things have happened in our life, we need to ask ourselves, is there something positive here? Is there something teaching me here? Or is not to just see black. Obviously, we can't, we're not going to overjoy and jump in the street from happiness when we get fired. It's not like the best day of our life. But potentially, and this we have to hold on to. Potentially, we removed from this situation so we can become in a better situation. And yes, there may be some hurdles that we have to go through, and maybe some changes personally we have to go through. If they fired us for X, Y, and Z, maybe we need to change some of that in order for us to reach and get to a better place. But sometimes if we just stayed in the same situation, we would never be able to evolve. The mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, always says that his first job when he started out, they throw him in what then was considered like the mailroom, very junior position, which was media at the time. He grew it into a multi-billion-dollar media company, Bloomberg, but at the time he was thrown into you just start some media thing. They didn't even put energy or focus or effort, and the situations we're put in, or quote, life puts us in situations because of things that we've put ourselves in, or somehow we're in a situation. There's always something positive that can be there. And unfortunately, the unfortunate part is usually we're only reacting and we're focusing on the negative as opposed to focusing on the positive. I think last week I posted a blog on the Huffington Post about the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And obviously, it's a huge, we're not really affected by it on a daily basis. There are people who are affected by it. If you live close by or there's people who are affected by it constantly. We'll all eventually somehow feel the effects of that. Eventually, somehow, we'll feel it. But right now, we don't actually feel it. But it's a tremendous tragedy that's actually happening to our world right now. And it's even more tragic that it was actually caused by man as opposed to some natural disaster. When a hurricane comes, we have to ask ourselves why and what can we do about it. But it's done by the universe. Or an earthquake happens in Haiti, it's one thing. But when a tragedy happens, it's man-made tragedy. It's you feel much more because somehow it could have been avoided. Like on a very practical level, it could be avoided. But we have to ask ourselves now that it's there, and time is going to pass. They're going to solve the problem hopefully very soon. It's going to be totally. And they're going to clean it up, and 1 year or 2 years, whatever it takes to sort of repair. Will it be as if it never happened, or we're actually going to learn something from it, and to grow? Because right now, each and every one of us could say, if this is one of those points in history where we all understand, we may not affect all that. In the work, if you're following the story, there's specific things that went wrong, and there's specific people, not always known, but there's specific faults that happened that directly caused this disaster. There's things in our life, either for ourselves or for others, where we specifically have affected other people's life. Or pain, or if we're a mother or a father, and there's specific things that we do to our children. Either we give them too much, or we try to control them. Especially if I don't have a Scorpio mother, but I understand that Scorpios as mothers tend to be controlling. So, thank God I didn't have a Scorpio mother, but this is what I hear from the people I know. They tend to be a bit controlling. And it sounds like a little, you know what I'm talking about. But, that effect on a child is on maybe a small scale, but we affect others. Whether it's a child and the way we act to our child, or we end up giving to a child, giving, as opposed to make them earn it. It's also a potential. And at some point in their life, they have to start earning. But if they've never learned ownership to earn something, it's going to be very difficult for them to actually be successful. And so if we could go to a point in time in history, like the oil spill, or any disaster that happens, and say, you know what, we'll all, whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000, 1,000,000 people, we'll all learn from this. The actions and the reactions and the effect that our actions can have. Because somewhere in some boardroom, people made decisions that led directly to this disaster happening in the Gulf. Someone said, okay, we're gonna forget these safety things, and it doesn't really make a difference, and kill the people or hang them. I don't think there's hanging anymore in this country. But whatever it is that we do to the people who have faults, who make the bad decisions. But somewhere there was a course of action planned that actually created this tangibly. We'll probably never know the exact, because everything always gets distorted. We'll never know exactly who, and it's not really important, the steps. But there was specific steps taken that led to the course of action that now we have all this oil gushing in the Gulf of Mexico. But if as individuals, we could all collectively, the collective all understand that when we sit down and make those decisions, we actually affect others, ourselves and others, in this world. So when a mother does make that controlling decision, or we do give too much, or as a boss we either give too much power to our employees, or not enough and try to keep it for ourselves, or all those either specific ones or global decisions that we make that affect others, if we could take and change by seeing the effect it has, or someone who drinks a lot and leaves the bar and decides he's going to drive anyway, and he hits someone. There's a specific cause and effect that happens. And if we could learn from things that are staring at us in the face, because a lot of times we don't always see the cause and effect. We don't have that. We don't see this is the direct cause to this action. And unfortunately, time and distorted kind of way that we see things, we don't always connect between the cause and effect. But when we have big things that are like, you can't avoid this. There was a direct cause to this. Somewhere, people sat down, and through their direct decisions, this disaster has happened. Through their direct decisions. But through us on a sliding scale, we have directed our course in our life. And where we are today is a direct effect of all these decisions we've made and decisions we've affected others. And if we can learn from the things that we see and decide, from today on, I'm going to understand the effect of my actions. I'm going to understand the effect of my actions. Then you can't say it was worth it, because nothing's worth, disasters and the wildlife and the damage done to our environment. At least we'll take the opportunity. Take an opportunity of things that happen in this world and actually produce a change. Because so many things happen in the world, and we change reactively for a second, and then life goes back to normal. I was in New York on September 11th. Sounds like